references unto your eternal form as the personality of Godhead, which you have so kindly manifested before us. Your supreme eternal form cannot be seen by unfortunate, less intelligent persons, but we are so much satisfied in our mind and vision to see it. Purport by His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The four sages were impersonalists in the beginning of their spiritual life, but afterwards, by the grace of their father and spiritual master Brahma, they understood the eternal spiritual form of the Lord and felt completely satisfied. In other words, the transcendentalists who aspire to the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma are not fully satisfied and still hanker for more. Even if they are satisfied in their minds, still, transcendentally, their eyes are not satisfied. But as soon as such persons come to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are satisfied in all respects. In other words, they become devotees and want to see the form of the Lord continually. It is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita that one who has developed transcendental love of Krishna by smearing his eyes with the ointment of love sees constantly the eternal form of the Lord. The particular word used in this connection, anatmanam, signifies those who have no control over the mind and senses and who therefore speculate and want to become one with the Lord. Such persons cannot have the pleasure of seeing the eternal form of the Lord. For the impersonalists and so-called yogis, the Lord is always hidden by the curtain of Yogamaya. Bhagavad Gita says that even when Lord Krishna was seen by everyone while he was present on the surface of the earth, the impersonalists and the so-called yogis could not see him because they were devoid of devotional eyesight. The theory of the impersonalists and so-called yogis is that the Supreme Lord assumes a particular form when he comes in touch with Maya, although actually he has no form. This very conception of the impersonalists and so-called yogis checks them from seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is. The Lord, therefore, is always beyond the sight of such non-devotees. The four sages felt so much obliged to the Lord that they offered their respectful obeisances unto him again and again. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Description of the Kingdom of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So a very significant statement in this purport is that the Lord is always hidden by the curtain of Yogamaya. And Bhagavad Gita says that even when the Lord Krishna was seen by everyone while he was present on the surface of the earth, the impersonalists and so-called yogis could not see him because they were devoid of devotional eyesight. Now, that's an interesting point, the devotional eyesight. How do we develop that devotional eyesight? Well, we develop it by chanting Hare Krishna and engaging in activities of Krishna consciousness called devotional service. Gradually, we will develop that devotional eyesight. Why? Well, we cannot see the Lord with the raw eye. We have to have the curtain of Yoga Maya taken away so that we can see the Lord. So, and therefore it says here, for the impersonalists and the so-called yogis, the Lord is always hidden by a curtain of Yoga Maya. And then also it says, Bhagavad Gita says that even when Lord Krishna was seen by everyone while he was present in the surface of the earth, the impersonalists and so-called yogis could not see him because they were devoid of devotional eyesight. So that's the like very profound statement. We're talking about devotional eyesight. Actually, we see much better by hearing than by seeing. So if we regularly hear about Krishna from bona fide devotees, then we can correct our, uh, let's say, incomplete or defective eyesight and gradually be able to see him also with our eyes. But we first begin to see the Lord by our ears, and that is very significant. And everything is like that. Like you don't see a place that you want to take a vacation to with your eyes. You hear about it first, and then you might see some pictures, but that hearing builds up your enthusiasm to visit that place, and then you go there and you actually see it. So in the same way, it says here that uh, once a person has control over the mind and the sense and gives up speculation, then they're able to come closer to the Lord. The Lord is always hidden by the curtain of Yoga Maya. So Yoga Maya has uh, two main functions. Sometimes Yoga Maya uh, hides Krishna, and sometimes Yoga Maya reveals Krishna. Both ways Yoga Maya acts. So if we are always, therefore it says, for the impersonalists and the so-called yogis, the Lord is always hidden by the curtain of Yoga Maya. Bhagavad Gita says that even when Lord Krishna was seen by everyone while he was present on the surface of the earth, the impersonalists and so-called yogis could not see him because they were devoid of devotional eyesight. Okay, so as long as we are associating with Mayavadis, we will not be able to see the Lord. But and then basically the Mayavadis also are not really pleased so much by seeing the form of the Lord in the temple. They think that that is something for the sentimentalist devotees. Uh, their concept of seeing is meditating in some uh, solitary place, uh, but they definitely don't see the Lord. So the Mayavadis are very, very bereft of the ability to see the Lord because they don't believe the Lord has an eternal body. They think that the different bodies that the Lord can manifest are temporary material bodies. So there's a lot of problems that the Mayavadis have, and because of that, they're not able to actually see the form of the Lord. And therefore, Prabhupada says, for the impersonalists and the so-called yogis, the Lord is always hidden by a curtain of Yogamaya. Well, Yogamaya, in some ways, is a brilliant light. And so when there's a very strong, brilliant light, you can't really see anything. Although, you need light to see things, but when it's too much light, you can't really focus your eyes. So therefore it says, Bhagavad Gita says that even when Lord Krishna was seen by everyone while he was present on the surface of the earth, the impersonalists and so-called yogis could not see him because they were devoid of devotional eyesight. Okay, so that devotional eyesight is evolved by engaging in devotional service and hearing about Krishna from bona fide devotees. And gradually, you're able to see Krishna in a proper way. And many Mayavadis, they believe that deity worship is for lower class devotees or sentimentalists, and they engage more in meditation on nothingness or on maybe their tip of their nose or something like that. But they consider the meditating on the deity as something sentimental for lower class devotees. So this is their misfortune, of course. Okay. Uh, Therefore, it says, even when Lord Krishna was seen by everyone while he was present on the surface of the earth, the impersonalists and the so called yogis could not see him because they were devoid of devotional eyesight. The theory of the impersonalists and so called yogis is that the Supreme Lord assumes a particular form when he comes in touch with Maya, although actually he has no form. This very conception of the impersonalists and so called yogis checks them, or yeah, makes it impossible for them uh, seeing the Supreme Personality Godhead as he is. The Lord, therefore, is always beyond the sight of such non devotees. The four sages felt so much obliged to the Lord that they have offered their respectful obeisances unto him again and again. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Description of the Kingdom of God. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Yes.
You gave the example that the light was the Maya, and we couldn't see what if there was too much light. But after that, you said um we need light to see. So I couldn't understand how that really connects. The statement that we need light to see.
Yeah.
Like, do we need at least a little bit of Maya, or like?
Well, it says here, for the impersonalists and the so called yogis, the Lord is always hidden by a curtain of Yoga Maya. That curtain of Yoga Maya is uh, blinding light. Just like if you look always at the sun, you'll go blind. And in the same way, uh, you have to pray to the Lord that He uh, will remove the curtain of Yoga Maya that's stopping someone from seeing Him. So, and this is this prayer is said in the Ishopanishad. Where's my Ishopanishad? Says um, verse number 15 of the Ishopanishad says. It says Hiranmayana Patrena Satyasya Vitam Pukam Tattvam Pusam Apavrinu Satyadharmaya Dristaye. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. You see, when you have such uh, powerful light or dazzling effulgence, it becomes like a covering of the Lord. You can't see this form because you're blinded by such brilliant light. So the devotee says, Hiranmayana Patrena Sakyasyapyatam Mukam Tattvam Pusamaparvinu Satyadharmaya Justaye. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your devotee. So in the purport it says, in the Bhagavad Gita 14:27, that's the last verse of the 14th chapter, the Lord explains his personal rays, Brahmajyoti, the dazzling effulgence of his personal form in this way. Brahmano hi pratistaham amritasya vyasya cha sasvatasya cha dharmasya sakaisya kantikasya cha. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So Prabhupada says, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are three aspects of the same absolute truth. Brahman is the aspect most easily perceived by the beginner. Paramatma, the supersoul, is realized by those who have further progressed. And Bhagavan realization is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.7, where the Lord says that he is the ultimate concept of the absolute truth. Mata parantaram nanyat. Therefore, Krishna is the source of the Brahma Jyoti, as well as all pervading Paramatma. Later in the Bhagavad Gita 10.42, Krishna further explains Atava payunaitena kim yatena tavarjuna vistabhyaham idam krishnam ekam senastito jagat. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Thus, by his one plenary expansion, the all-pervading Paramatma, the Lord maintains the complete material cosmic creation. He also maintains all manifestations in the spiritual realm. Therefore, in this Shruti mantra of Shisha Upanishad, the Lord is addressed as Pusan, the ultimate maintainer. Okay, so um, when there's, uh, let's say, very intense light, it blinds your eyes, and it becomes it's what's called a curtain of light. So, in order to remove that curtain of light, you have to pray to the Lord, and that's what this 15th and 16th mantra of Isha Upanishad says. Hiran Mayana Patrena Satyasya Pitam Mukam Tatvam Pusamapavrinu Satyadharmaya Dristaye. O my Lord, make sustainer of all that lives. Your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. And then verse 16 again says, Pusaneka se yamasriya prajapatya vyuharasmin samahate jaha tejo yate rupam kalyana tamam tate pasyami yo savaso purushaha sohamasmi. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun, as am I. So in the purport, it says, the sun and its rays are one and the same qualitatively. Similarly, the Lord and the living entities are one and the same in quality. The sun is one, but the molecules of the sun's rays are innumerable. The sun's rays constitute part of the sun, and the sun and its rays conjointly constitute the complete sun. Within the sun itself resides the sun God, and similarly within the supreme spiritual planet Goloka Vrindavan, from which this Brahma Jyoti effulgence is emanating, the Lord enjoys his eternal pastimes, as verified in the Brahma Samhita 5.28. Chintamani Prakadasat Masukalpa Vriksha Laksa Vritesa Surabhira Vipalyantam Lakshmi Sahasrastatasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, fulfilling all desires in abodes filled with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of wish fulfilling trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or goddesses of fortune. Now, it's a wonderful verse. You can meditate on this verse the rest of your life, and the rest of our lives. It's very, very profound. It continues. The Brahma Jyoti is described in the Brahma Samhita as the rays emanating from that supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavanam. Well, of course, it's those rays are emanating from the body of the Lord, just as the sun's rays emanate from the sun globe. Until one surpasses the glare of the Brahma Jyoti, one cannot receive information of the land of the Lord. So you see, the Brahma Jyoti, on one hand, is this brilliant light that's, in one sense, protecting the Lord or covering the Lord, uh, and one cannot actually see the Lord unless they become completely surrendered to the Lord through devotional service. And then Krishna will remove that covering of brilliant light of the Brahma Jyoti, and then you can see Krishna as he is. So that's what this prayer says. The 15th and 16th prayer, Ishopanishad, Pusan Ekase Yamasuya Prajapatya Vyoha Rasmin Samahate Jaha Yate Rupam Kayana Tamam Tate Sohamasmi Yosava Sopurusha Sohamasmi. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as am I. So these two verses in Ishopanishad, mantra 15 and 16, talking about the uh, Hiranmaya, or this uh, curtain of light that has to be. Well, so there's two curtains. First, our eyes are covered by Maya. That's one curtain. Then the second curtain is Hiranmaya Patrena, the brilliant light that's emanating from the Lord. So we have to uh, overcome these two curtains, right? Once we overcome the curtain of Maya covering our eyes, we still can't really fully see the Lord. Then we have to pray to the Lord that He takes away this curtain of light, this brilliant Brahmajyoti light that is covering our eyes. It's not actually covering Krishna's eyes; it's covering our eyes. The same way, uh, the uh, the sun is when it's very, very bright on a sunny day, it covers our eyes. The sun is not covered, but our eyes are covered. So uh, we have to pray to the Lord to take away that curtain of light. So there's this prayer. Hiranmayana pare kose virajam brahma niskalam, and so forth. In the spiritual realm, beyond the material covering. So you see this, the material covering, and then there's that covering of the Brahman effulgence. So in the spiritual realm, beyond the material covering, is the unlimited Brahman effulgence, which is free from material contamination. That effulgent white light is understood by transcendentalists to be the light of all lights. In that realm, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity for illumination. Indeed, whatever illumination appears in the material world is only a reflection of that supreme illumination. That Brahman is in front and in back, in the north, south, east, and west, and also overhead and below, In other words, that supreme Brahman effulgence spreads throughout both the material and spiritual skies. And Prabhupada writes, perfect knowledge means knowing Krishna as the root of this Brahman effulgence. This knowledge can be gained from such scriptures as Srimad Bhagavatam, which perfectly elaborates the science of Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, the author Srila Vyasadeva has established that one will describe the supreme truth as Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan, according to one's realization of him. Srila Vyasadeva never states that the supreme truth is a jiva, an ordinary living being. The living entity should never be considered at all, never be considered the all-powerful supreme truth. If he were the supreme, we would not need to pray to the Lord to remove his dazzling cover so that the living entity could see his real face. The conclusion is that one who has no knowledge of the potencies of the supreme truth will realize the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, when one realizes the material potencies of the Lord but has little or no information of the spiritual potencies, he attains Paramatma realization. Thus, both Brahman and Paramatma realizations, the absolute truth, are partial realizations. However, when one realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, in full potency after the removal of the Hiranmaya Patra, meaning that brilliant, the brilliance that's emanating from the Lord's body, one realizes Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Lord Sri Krishna, who is known as Vasudeva, is everything. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He is Bhagavan, the root of the Brahman, and the Paramatma are his branches. In Bhagavad Gita 6.46-47, there is a comparative analysis of the three types of transcendentalists: the worshippers of the impersonal Brahman, Gyanis, the worshippers of the Paramatma feature, Yogis, and the devotees of Lord Sri Krishna, Bhaktas. It is stated there that the Gyanis, those who have cultivated Vedic knowledge, are better than ordinary fruitive workers, that the Yogis are still greater than the Gyanis, and that among all Yogis, those who constantly serve the Lord with all their energies are the topmost. In summary, a philosopher is better than a laboring man. A mystic is superior to a philosopher. And of all the mystic yogis, he who follows bhakti yoga, constantly engaging in the service of the Lord, is the highest. Sri Ishopanishad directs us toward this perfection. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. That was like the 15th mantra of the Ishopanishad. Then the next verse that we're reading the purport from the 15th mantra, 16th mantra, it continues. Pusanika Seyama Surya Prajapatya Vyuha Rasmin Samahate Jaha Yate Rupam Kayan Tamam Tate Pasyami Yo Savaso Purushaha Sohamasme. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as am I. Well, the sun is one, but it's expanding its light throughout the whole universe. So therefore, when it says like unto the sun as am I, it's basically saying that the sun and its rays are one and the same qualitatively. Similarly, the Lord and living entities are one and the same in quality. So we can never be completely equal to Krishna, but qualitatively we can be one. Right? So what does that mean? That means we have an eternal soul, but our soul is minute. it's smaller. Actually, our soul is smaller than an atom. You see. So we can never be equal to Krishna, who is infinite uh, potencies. And we're just a minute, very, very minute potency of the Lord. But qualitatively, we're equal. Quantitatively, we are not. And that will never change. Okay, so it says the Brahma Jyoti is described in the Brahma Samhita as the rays emanating from the supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavana. And ultimately, in Goloka Vrindavana is Krishna, and the rays are emanating from Krishna, just as the sun's rays emanate from the sun globe. Until once, well, if you go even closer from this in the sun globe, you'll see Vivaswan, the deity of the Lord. That's the source of the sun, sunshine. Until one surpasses the glare of the Brahmajyoti, one cannot receive information of the land of the Lord. The impersonalist philosophers, blinded as they are by the dazzling Brahmajyoti, can realize neither the factual abode of the Lord nor his transcendental form. Limited by their poor fund of knowledge, such impersonalist thinkers cannot understand the all blissful transcendental form of Lord Krishna. In this prayer, therefore, the Sri Upanishad petitions the Lord to remove the effulgent rays of the Brahmajyoti so that the pure devotee can see his all blissful transcendental form. So we have one, the covering of Maya that's hindering our seeing Krishna. And then two, when the covering of Maya is taken away, we still are covered by the dazzling effulgence coming from the body of Krishna. So we have to pray to him like this, the 15th and 16th uh, mantras of the Ishopanishad, that the Lord kindly remove his dazzling effulgence so we can see his smiling face. Very interesting. How many levels of Maya cover us? So the Ishopanishad now is explaining it, making it very clear. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's good to visualize the two layers, because the first layer people may on their own endeavor could potentially overcome. That's
Yeah.
what the yogis do.
Yeah.
But the second layer they cannot, because that's only by the mercy of the Lord you can be that layer can be removed. So that's why they may never reach the highest stage, whereas a bhakti yogi can cross both the layers by
Yes.
just taking the help of the mercy of the Lord.
Yes. Very good. Yeah. So this is our condition. And if we hear this, then we know we have a lot of work to do. Yeah. Okay. So in this prayer, meaning mantra 16 of Ishopanishad, therefore, Sri Ishopanishad petitions the Lord to remove the effulgent rays of the Brahmajyoti so that the pure devotee can see his all blissful transcendental form. Okay, so we see how far away the Mayavadis are, and even more the materialists that only deal with matter. They don't deal with anything spiritual. They're completely covered and completely in illusion about everything they do. And that's very interesting because you see that all these PhDs and scientists and so-called yogis, they're all covered by this curtain of Maya, and it's difficult for them actually make spiritual progress. If there was spiritual progress, then there would not be, wars and hurricanes and all kinds of different uh, uh, all kinds of different miseries in the material world. Uh, you can transform the material nature into spiritual nature. That is what Krishna consciousness is all about, and that is explained. Let me see if I can find that right away. Uh, there is a place where it explains this. I might not find it right now. Yeah, the whole process of Krishna consciousness is transforming the material nature into spiritual nature. That is explained. Find this maybe tomorrow, and I'll read it.
Which verse number are you looking at?
Well, I'm probably not looking at the right one now. The living entity should never be considered the all-powerful supreme truth. If he were the supreme, he would not need to pray to the Lord to remove his dazzling cover so that the living entity could see his real face. The conclusion is that one who has no knowledge of the potencies of the Supreme Lord will realize the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, when one realizes the material potencies of the Lord, but has little or no information of the spiritual potencies, he attains Paramatma realization. And thus both Brahman and Paramatma realization, the absolute truth, are partial realization. However, when one realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, in full potency after the removal of the Hiranmaya Patra, the brilliant light emanating from the body of the Lord, one realizes Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Lord Sri Krishna, who is known as Vasudeva, is everything. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He is Bhagavan, the root, and Brahman and Paramatma are his branches. In Bhagavad Gita 6:46 and dash 47, there is a comparative analysis of the three types of transcendentalists: the worshippers of the impersonal Brahman, Gyanis, the worshippers of the Paramatma feature, Yogis, and the devotees of Lord Krishna, Bhaktas. It is stated there that the Gyanis, those who have cultivated Vedic knowledge, are better than ordinary fruitive workers, that the yogis are still greater than the Gyanis, and that among all yogis, those who constantly serve the Lord with all their energies are the topmost. In summary, a philosopher is better than a laboring man, a mystic is superior to a philosopher, and of all the mystic yogis, he who follows bhakti yoga, constantly engaging in the service of the Lord, is the highest. Sri Upanishad directs us toward this perfection. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So we should strive to attain that perfection of Krishna consciousness so we can see the Lord. Therefore, in the 17th mantra, Ishopanishad, which is very interesting, it says, Vayur Anilam Anmitam, Ate Dambasman Tam Sariram, Om Katu Smara Kritam Smara, Katu Smara Kritam Smara. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. This is a prayer one should say at the moment of death. But if we have never done anything to serve the Lord, in other words, no sacrifices to serve the Lord, there's nothing for him to remember. Right? But here it's saying, please, remember all that I've done for you, my dear Lord. Please remember all my sacrifices. And because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all I have done for you. So this prayer, 17th mantra Ishopanishad, should be said at the moment of death. Of course, we should be praying all the time, not just at the moment of death. But then mantra 18 says, Agni Nasupatara Vishwani Deva Vayunan Vidvan Yod Yod Ashma Juhuranam Ino Wisdom Te Nama Uktim Videma. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. Now, these are very powerful prayers that one should say, especially at the moment of death or before that, obviously. So it says that in the purport to this verse, let me see what it. Yeah, it says, the Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to his lotus feet that even though the devotee sometimes falls into the entanglement of vikarma, meaning acts against the Vedic directions, meaning sinful acts, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. Well, that means that we should become a devotee because Krishna is going to let us go. He's going to do everything possible to keep us on the right path. Even if we fall down, still, he will do everything to rectify us. So that means that Krishna is the father of all living entities. Therefore, he's more interested and more, let's say, anxious for us to come back to Godhead than we are. We get stuck in the material world and attached to all kinds of very, very gross things. And we don't make an effort to go back to Godhead. But Krishna is more enthusiastic to help us come back to Godhead than we are. And he'll do everything to help us in that way. So he sends, he comes himself, or he sends his representatives like Srila Prabhupada to help us develop our enthusiasm to go back to Godhead rather than stay birth after birth and rot in the material world. So, and there's a nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 5, verse 42. It says, the Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to his lotus feet that even though the devotee sometimes falls into the entanglement of vikarma or sinful acts against the Vedic directions, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. In this mantra, meaning mantra 18 of Ishopanishad, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from within his heart. To err is human. That means to make a mistake is, what do you say, human. Human beings make mistakes. A conditioned soul is very often apt to commit mistakes. Apt means to have the tendency to commit mistakes. And the only remedial measure to take against such unintentional sins is to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord so that he may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. Now, the key word here is unintentional sins. If someone intentionally sins, then they sort of go outside of the orbit of the Lord. But if we are doing devotional service and unintentionally we commit some sins, then the Lord is the Lord takes charge of the fully surrendered souls. Thus, all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting in terms of His directions. Such directions are given to the sincere devotee in two ways. One is by way of the saints, scriptures, and spiritual master, and the other is by way of the Lord Himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus, the devotee, fully enlightened with Vedic knowledge, is protected in all respects. So, there's a real benefit of becoming a devotee. And then Krishna won't let go of us very easily. It's only if we're adamantly thinking of sense gratification all the time, then he says, okay, what can I do? Then you have to learn the hard way. But if we are striving always to follow the Lord, but sometimes we have some weaknesses, Krishna will help us in every way to overcome those weaknesses so we can continue on the path of devotional service. Vedic knowledge is transcendental and cannot be understood by mundane educational procedures. In other words, by going to schools and colleges, we're not going to really understand anything about Krishna. Yeah, I mean, do they teach anything about Krishna in colleges? I don't think so. They're teaching you all kinds of different things, but not the most important thing. Vedic knowledge is transcendental and cannot be understood by mundane educational procedures. That means that the process of understanding Krishna is not the educational process that's being used in schools. What does that mean? And this is something a devotee will understand over time, that the way to have real knowledge is not by the educational process used in schools. It's by surrendering to the Lord. And then by the mercy of the Lord reveals knowledge because He's in our heart. And the seat of the Lord is in the heart of every living entity. So the Lord can reveal knowledge to us. So this is called revelation theology, as opposed to studying and passing tests and things like that. And even if you pass tests and study, in college, you don't really, I mean, you use some of what you've learned, but not much. So after you're ready to get a job, you have to be trained on the job for actually becoming effective or being able to do all the things that a company wants you to do. So everything you learn in college, you use some of it, but not all of it at all, and maybe a small part. Okay, so in this mantra 18, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from within his heart. To err is human, meaning making mistakes is normal for human beings. A conditioned soul is very apt to commit mistakes, and the only remedial measure to take against such unintentional sins is to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord so that He may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. The Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls. Thus, all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting in terms of His directions. Such directions are given to the sincere devotee in two ways. One is by way of the saints, scriptures, and spiritual master, and the other is by way of the Lord Himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus, the devotee fully enlightened with Vedic knowledge is protected in all respects. Well, this is something we should read every day, remind us what is actually going on when you engage in Krishna conscious activities. We're going to make mistakes. It's no because it's our natures to make mistakes, forget and be forgetful. That's why every day we should chant our rounds and hear lectures given by genuine devotees and hear the recitation of the Shastras. And these are what were called remedial measures to take against such unintentional sins and to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord so that he may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. The Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls. Thus, all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting in terms of his direction. Such directions are given to the sincere devotee in two ways. One is by way of the saints, scriptures, and spiritual master, and the other is by the way of the Lord himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus, the devotee, fully enlightened with Vedic knowledge, is protected in all respects. So you have to take these statements seriously and understand that if we surrender ourselves to Krishna, but with the help of bona fide spiritual masters, and I use the word plural, spiritual masters. It's not just one spiritual master. There are many spiritual masters. There's Shiksha and Diksha gurus. That means that we have the opportunity to be educated by many spiritual masters who are following, of course, the instructions given by Krishna. Therefore, if you look at it seriously, there are spiritual masters all around us. If you open your eyes and your ears, you will see that there are bona fide devotees, many devotees, that can teach us more and more about Krishna. And we should take advantage of that. It's not only one person. There are many qualified devotees now that are able to teach Krishna consciousness in an authentic way so that we overcome the allurement to Maya and become very attached to Krishna. Okay, what time is it? All right, 7:24. Yeah. So we'll ask some questions. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask?
Any questions online or even takeaways? Please, yeah.
One clarification.
Yeah.
About the two coverings. The first covering that is on our eyes, and second is Jyoti, that is effulgence.
Yes.
The first one is by the Yogmaya. And
first one is Mahamaya.
First one, Mahamaya, our one. Okay, by Mahamaya. And the second one is effulgence. So is that by the Yogmaya or is it just effulgence?
Yogamaya. Yeah. So that's the prayer, that we say. Yoga 17, so it says, Vayra anilam amritam tedam basvantam sariram pratusmaras pitam smaran, pratusmara pitam smaran. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes. Let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices. And because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So if we haven't done anything for the Lord, there's nothing for him to remember. So if we engage in devotional service sincerely, every everything that you do for the Lord becomes a asset that you can never lose. Right? And that way, you can pray to the Lord, please remember everything I've done for you. Right? That basically, when we become determined to engage in devotional service on a daily basis, we are accumulating all these assets that are eternal. And therefore, Krishna will not let go of us. And even if we fall down, he will rehabilitate us very quickly so we can continue to come back toward him. So we shouldn't worry about, the effulgence of the Brahma Jyoti, because simply by engaging in devotional service, Krishna takes away that curtain of light for us. So what we should be concerned about is engaging regularly in devotional service. That's the solution to all our problems of life. And then Krishna takes a special interest in the devotee who's sincerely following his instructions and practicing Krishna consciousness. So that should be our meditation. What service can I do today? Right? And the more service we do, the closer we come to Krishna. Seva, or service, is our connection to the Lord. Some people don't realize that, unfortunately. They want to serve so many other things, basketball, baseball. They want to serve making money. They want to serve this. They want to serve that, sense gratification, and so forth. The devotee is more interested focusing on serving Krishna. And that solves all problems of life. And like some people, they want to serve a very rich man so they get a good job and make a lot of money. But that doesn't solve the problems of life: birth, death, old age, and disease. But if you use the same energy to serve Krishna and devotees, then those problems of life will be overcome. Birth, death, old age, and disease. You're not going to overcome those real problems by serving mundane people. You might make money, but it's not going to save you at the moment of death. Right? So there is different types of service. Now, service is the actual, let's say, uh, uh, the actual tendency of the living entity. If you look in nature, human beings are serving each other, and animals also. The bird, the mother bird is serving the baby bird, right? So all throughout nature, service is being done. But when you decide to serve Krishna, of course, the animals can't do that. Only human beings can do that. But when we decide to serve Krishna, then all our problems will go away, and we'll become eligible to go back to Godhead. So we should be very, let's say, eager to have service in Krishna consciousness. Okay, Hari Bol. Where's Prabhupada? Yeah.
Maharaj, one tip for Abhi.
Yeah.
He developed love for reading.
Reading. Okay.
Very dedicated, very devoted to reading.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Reading what?
Library school books. School library books. How do we help him?
Well, you see, that's why I asked you even before you finished saying reading what. If you read mundane literatures, you will become mundane. You know, you read about Mark Twain and this one and that one. It's a lot of what you would call the unnecessary scriptures and unnecessary books. There's only one book that we should read. That's Bhagavad Gita. Right? That gives us all knowledge. All the other books takes our attention away from Bhagavad Gita. They don't really support Bhagavad Gita. So If you want to waste your life and you read all those books, and you go to the library, there's thousands of books, and they say that this is this is the citadel of knowledge, the, the libraries, but actually it's a place where you forget Krishna. There's so many different books, so many different theories, so many different ideas, and it takes your mind away from Krishna. So you don't need those books to go back to Godhead. Not one of those books is going to help you to go back to Godhead. But if you just stick with Bhagavad Gita, and then that's not enough, you can also read Srimad Bhagavatam. That's enough to go back to Godhead. So we have to understand now. The Christians have the same idea, and the Muslims also have the same idea. So the Muslims they only read the Quran, and the Christians their main book is the Bible. Right? But for us, it's Bhagavad Gita. Now the difference is there are certain serious mistakes in the Bible and the Quran, but there's no mistakes in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, someone said, "Oh, well, you're saying that because you're prejudiced." No, it's a fact. There's many mistakes in the Bible and the Quran. Many. I mean, they talk about God. And that's good, but their understanding of God is incomplete. That's not so good. That's why they commit mistakes. A lot of mistakes being made in Christianity, and a lot of mistakes are being made in Islam also. You can just open up a newspaper and you'll see all the mistakes are being made. Like, for example, in World War II, the Germans were fighting with the Allies, mainly the British, and they're both Christians. Why are they killing each other? Massively killing each other. You could say, well, it's because they were not good Christians. Yeah.
Some books that in the library that they talk about that.
About what?
That World War II about. I think it was from Nazi army.
Nazi, yeah. Yeah, but see, that's not going to help you understand Krishna. Let's put it like that. If anything, it helps you forget Krishna. Try and learn about, the history of World War II. Well, you're not going to be, if you think about that at the moment of death, where do you think you're going to go? Let's see, you read a book you have to get from the library about World War II and the Allies and the Nazis and so forth. Where do you think you'll go if you meditate on that at the moment of death?
You'll be born in a war.
Huh? What do you think? Well, no, you're not going to go back to Godhead for sure. Yeah, you're going to go wherever that war is continuing, and these wars are continuing all the time, right? So it's best to focus completely on Krishna literature, especially Bhagavad Gita. If you become an expert in one book, you, especially a book like the Bhagavad Gita, that's enough. You don't need any more knowledge than that. It gives you the quintessential or most important knowledge by which you can be liberated at the moment of death. All these other books take your mind away from that goal of being liberated at the moment of death, and you learn so many things, but none of those things are going to help you overcome birth, death, old age, and disease. So why even read them? It's just a waste of time, And all the paper that they waste to print all those books, it's like, it's, I mean, all those books, the only use you could have from all those books is to use the paper as toilet paper because it's all nonsense, You want to hear about all the different stories. They have fiction, you have nonfiction. They're both nonsense, the fiction books and the nonfiction books. So don't waste your time on that. Just stick to Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. You have all knowledge right there. And that knowledge far surpasses any knowledge that they're teaching in schools. Basically, let's say you go to a school and you want to learn, let's say, how to be a mechanic. All right, but basically, being a mechanic, you can make a living, but it's the life of a Sudra. You're there's no Krishna consciousness involved. Well, you can say, no, wait a minute. What if I'm a mechanic for Krishna's cars or trucks? Okay, that's good. That means you dovetailed your activity to Krishna consciousness. But simply being a mechanic, it has nothing to do with going back to Godhead. But if you can use that education that you have in the service of Krishna, then you dovetail your let's say adapt your ability into Krishna consciousness. So therefore, we can dovetail everything into Krishna consciousness with the help of genuine devotees. Someone might say, "Well, how can you dovetail an atomic bomb?" That question was asked by to Prabhupada. And he said, "Yes, we can use it to kill the Mayavadis." And devotees were surprised when he said that. So we don't want to. But actually, we are killers. We kill people's desire for sense gratification. That's the way we kill. Okay, so then we will stop now and continue tonight, day and night. Actually, Prabhupada wanted 3 times a day, afternoon, and evening. But not everyone's available in the afternoon. Haribol. All glories to Prabhupada.